Pregnant and homeless in the rain, Arya never expected her rescuer to be Ethan, the mysterious man from one magical night who disappeared without a trace. Now he's back, but he doesn't know the baby she's carrying is his. Before watching full story, comment below from where you watching. Also like and subscribe for more stories. The rain pounded against the windows of the Morrison mansion as 20-year-old Arya clutched her small suitcase with trembling hands. Her stepmother, Victoria, stood in the grand foyer with her arms crossed, her cold blue eyes filled with disgust. "You've brought shame to this family," Victoria spat, her voice echoing through the marble halls. "A pregnant girl with no husband? Do you think I'll let you ruin our reputation?" Arya's father had died just 6 months ago, leaving her completely at Victoria's mercy. The woman who had pretended to love her for 3 years now showed her true colors. "Please, Victoria. I have nowhere to go," Arya whispered, her hand instinctively moving to her barely visible bump. At 3 months pregnant, she was just beginning to show. "That's not my problem. You should have thought about that before you decided to sleep around like a common." "Don't," Arya interrupted, finding strength she didn't know she had. "Don't you dare finish that sentence." Victoria's laugh was cruel and sharp. "The truth hurts, doesn't it? Well, here's another truth. You have 1 hour to pack your things and get out of my house. Forever." As the heavy oak door slammed behind her, Arya stood on the street in the pouring rain, completely alone. She had $200 to her name, a suitcase of clothes, and a baby growing inside her. The father? She only knew his first name was Ethan, and he had been the most gentle, caring man she'd ever met during one magical night 8 months ago. But she'd never seen him again. Arya had been walking for hours, soaked to the bone, when she collapsed on a park bench. Her vision blurred from exhaustion and hunger. She hadn't eaten since yesterday, spending her last few dollars on a bus ticket to nowhere. "Miss? Are you all right?" The voice was deep, concerned, and strangely familiar. Arya looked up through her wet hair to see a man in an expensive coat holding an umbrella over her. Her heart stopped. It was him. Ethan. The same kind brown eyes, the same gentle smile that had made her feel safe that one perfect night. But he looked different now, older, more sophisticated, wearing a tailored suit that spoke of success. "Arya?" His voice was barely a whisper, filled with shock and something else. Recognition that went deeper than just remembering her face. "Ethan." She tried to stand but swayed dangerously. Without hesitation, he caught her in his strong arms. "What are you doing out here in this storm? You're soaking wet and freezing." His eyes suddenly noticed her condition, widening as he took in her slight bump and pale, exhausted face. "Are you pregnant?" "Yes." She looked away, shame coloring her cheeks. "And homeless as of today." Ethan's jaw tightened, but not with anger, with protective fury. "Who did this to you? Who threw you out?" "My stepmother. After my father died, she said I was a shame to the family." Arya's voice broke. "I don't have anywhere to go." Without another word, Ethan scooped her up in his arms. "You're coming with me. No arguments." Ethan's penthouse apartment was like something from a magazine, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, modern furniture that probably cost more than most people's cars. But all Arya could focus on was the warmth and the fact that she was safe. He wrapped her in soft blankets and brought her hot soup, his movements careful and attentive. As she sipped the warm broth, she studied his face. He was even more handsome than she remembered, but there was something different about him now, a confidence, a presence that spoke of power and success. "Ethan," she began hesitantly, "that night we met, you never told me your last name." He set down his coffee cup, his expression becoming serious. "Blackwood. Ethan Blackwood." Arya's spoon clattered into her bowl. Even she, sheltered as she'd been, knew that name. Blackwood Industries was one of the largest corporations in the state. You're him. The CEO. "I am." He moved closer, sitting on the edge of the coffee table facing her. "But that night I just wanted to be Ethan. No titles, no expectations. Just a man talking to a beautiful, intelligent woman who made me laugh for the first time in months. Why didn't you tell me? Because women usually want me for my money or my connections. With you I felt real. Human." His eyes softened. "I looked for you afterward, you know. I went back to that coffee shop every day for weeks, hoping to see you again." Arya's heart clenched. "I was there too. Different times, I guess." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment before Ethan asked the question they both knew was coming. "The baby? Is it mine?" Arya nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I've never been with anyone else. You were my first, my only." Ethan's expression transformed, a mixture of wonder, protectiveness, and something that looked like love crossing his features. He knelt beside her, his hands gently framing her face. "Our baby," he whispered as if the words were precious. "You're carrying our child." The next few weeks passed like a beautiful dream. Ethan insisted Arya stay in his guest room, but their connection grew stronger each day. He would bring her breakfast in bed, take her to doctor's appointments, and they would spend evenings talking about everything and nothing. "You don't have to do this," Arya told him one evening as they watched the sunset from his balcony. "I never expected anything from you." "I know you didn't. That's one of the reasons I'm falling in love with you all over again." He turned to face her, his expression serious. "I want to be here, Arya. For you and for our baby. If you'll let me." But their happiness was about to be threatened. Victoria Morrison had been seething for weeks. How dare that ungrateful girl find her feet so quickly? She'd expected Arya to come crawling back, begging for forgiveness. Instead, she'd heard whispers at the country club about Arya being seen with Ethan Blackwood himself. Victoria might be cruel, but she wasn't stupid. If Arya had somehow trapped the most eligible bachelor in the city, Victoria wanted her piece of the pie. She arrived at Blackwood Industries like a woman on a mission. "Mr. Blackwood," Victoria purred when Ethan's assistant announced her. "I'm Victoria Morrison, Arya's mother." Ethan's expression turned ice cold. "Stepmother? And the woman who threw a pregnant girl out in a storm." "There's been a misunderstanding," Victoria said smoothly. "I was upset, yes, but I've come to make amends. That girl has always been troubled, you know. Unstable. Are you sure the baby is even yours? Get out." Ethan's voice was deadly quiet. "I'm just trying to protect you from—" "I said get out. No. Before I have security remove you." Victoria's mask slipped, showing her true venomous nature. "This isn't over. That girl destroyed my family, and I won't let her destroy yours too." But Victoria's poison had been planted. That evening Ethan was quieter than usual. When Arya asked what was wrong, he brushed off her concerns, but she could see something had changed. Days passed and Ethan became more distant. He still cared for her, still went to appointments, but the easy intimacy they'd built was cracking. Finally, Arya confronted him. "What did she say to you?" "Who?" "Don't lie to me, Ethan. Victoria came to see you, didn't she?" He sighed, running his hands through his hair. "She said some things. About your past, about other men." Arya felt like she'd been slapped. "And you believed her?" "I don't know what to believe anymore." His voice was pained. "I thought I knew you, but we only spent one night together. What if—" "Stop." Arya stood up, her hand protectively over her bump. "If you don't trust me, if you think I'm some kind of manipulative liar, then I'll leave." "Arya, wait." But she was already walking toward the door. "I thought you were different, Ethan. I thought you saw me for who I really am. But you're just like everyone else, ready to believe the worst." Arya found herself in a small, dingy apartment across town, working double shifts at a diner to pay rent. Her pregnancy was getting harder to hide, and some days she was so tired she could barely stand. But her pride wouldn't let her go back to Ethan. If he didn't trust her, they had nothing. Meanwhile, Ethan was miserable. Every morning he woke up in his empty penthouse. He felt the absence of Arya's laughter, her gentle presence. His assistant noticed his mood, his friends commented on his distraction, but he was too stubborn to admit he'd made a terrible mistake. It was his childhood friend Marcus who finally knocked sense into him. "You're an idiot," Marcus said bluntly over drinks. "You found the woman you love, she's carrying your child, and you let some bitter old woman convince you to throw it all away? You don't understand. What if the baby isn't mine? Then you get a paternity test. But Ethan, I've known you for 20 years. Your instincts about people are usually spot on. What do your instincts tell you about Arya?" Ethan closed his eyes, remembering Arya's face when she told him about the baby, the vulnerability, the fear, but also the honesty. That she's telling the truth. "Then why are you sitting here feeling sorry for yourself instead of fighting for your family?" Ethan made his decision the next morning. He would find Arya, apologize, and beg her to give them another chance. But when he arrived at the address his private investigator had found, the landlord told him she'd collapsed at work and been rushed to the hospital. Ethan's world tilted. He raced to the emergency room, his heart pounding with fear. When he found her room, Arya was lying pale and still in the hospital bed, and 4 in her arm. "Sir, are you family?" the nurse asked. "I'm the baby's father," he said without hesitation. The doctor explained that Arya had collapsed from exhaustion and malnutrition. "She's been working too hard and not taking care of herself. The baby is fine for now, but she needs rest and proper nutrition. Ethan sat beside her bed, taking her hand in his. I'm so sorry, he whispered to her sleeping form. I should have trusted you. I should have protected you. When Arya woke up hours later, the first thing she saw was Ethan's face, etched with worry and regret. You came, she whispered. I never should have let you leave. His voice was rough with emotion. I was scared, Arya. Scared that what we had was too good to be true. But being without you, it's been hell. Ethan took Arya home. To their home, he insisted. Over the following weeks, he proved his commitment in 100 small ways. He cooked for her, read to their unborn baby, and held her when pregnancy hormones made her cry. I want to do this right, he told her one evening as they felt the baby kick for the first time. I want to marry you not because of the baby but because I love you. Because I can't imagine my life without you in it. Arya's eyes filled with tears. Are you sure? What about what Victoria said? Victoria is a bitter woman who can't stand to see others happy. I know who you are, Arya. You're kind, you're strong, you're beautiful inside and out. You're the woman I fell in love with twice. Once in that coffee shop, and again every day since you've been back in my life. They married in a simple ceremony in Ethan's apartment, with just a few close friends as witnesses. Arya wore a flowing white dress that accommodated her growing bump, and she'd never felt more beautiful. But Victoria wasn't finished. She showed up at the reception, uninvited and furious. This is a mistake, she announced to the small gathering. That girl is using you, Mr. Blackwood. She's not who you think she is. This time, Arya didn't let Ethan fight her battles alone. She stood up, her hand in his, and faced her stepmother with quiet dignity. You're right about one thing, Victoria. I'm not who you think I am. I'm not the weak, frightened girl you threw out in the storm. I'm a woman who's learned her worth, who's found love, and who won't let your bitterness poison my happiness anymore. You ruined my life. Victoria screamed, her composure finally cracking completely. No, Arya said calmly. You ruined your own life with your hatred and jealousy. I forgive you for what you did to me, but I won't let you hurt my family. Ethan's security team quietly escorted Victoria out, and she was never seen or heard from again. Baby Emma was born on a snowy December morning, with her father's dark hair and her mother's bright green eyes. As Ethan held his daughter for the first time, tears streaming down his face, Arya knew that all the pain had been worth it to get to this moment. She's perfect, he whispered, his voice full of wonder. Just like her daddy, Arya smiled, exhausted but radiant. Their little family was complete, but their story was just beginning. 2 years later, Arya was in Ethan's study helping him organize some papers when she came across a folder that made her gasp. Inside were dozens of photos of her. At the coffee shop where they'd met, walking to work, sitting in the park. All taken before that fateful night. Ethan, she called, her voice shaking. What is this? He appeared in the doorway, saw what she was holding, and his face went pale. I can explain. You were watching me? Before we even met. He sat down heavily, running his hands through his hair. I saw you at that coffee shop weeks before we actually talked. You were reading a book, laughing at something, and you were the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I kept going back, hoping to work up the courage to talk to you. So our meeting wasn't an accident? No, he admitted. I finally gathered the courage to approach you that night. But everything I felt, everything we shared, that was real. The most real thing in my life. Arya stared at him for a long moment, then started laughing. You stalked me? I prefer, admired from afar, he said sheepishly. You're impossible. She threw a pillow at him, but she was smiling. Next time you fall in love at first sight, just say hello like a normal person. Next time? He caught the pillow and pulled her into his arms. There won't be a next time. I'm stuck with you forever, Mrs. Blackwood. 5 years later, Arya stood in the same park where Ethan had found her that stormy night. But now she was there for a different reason. Opening the Arya Blackwood Foundation for Homeless Pregnant Women, funded by Blackwood Industries. This foundation, she told the gathered crowd, exists because I know what it's like to have nowhere to turn. I know the fear, the shame, the desperation. But I also know that with kindness, support, and love, any woman can overcome her circumstances and build a beautiful life. In the audience, Ethan held their daughter Emma, now a bright 3-year-old, while Arya's hand rested on her bump. Baby number 2 was due in 4 months. My wife, Ethan said to the reporter interviewing him, is the strongest person I know. She turned pain into purpose, and now she's going to change countless lives. The foundation grew rapidly, helping hundreds of women find safe housing, job training, and support. Arya often told her story to the women they helped, showing them that their current circumstances didn't define their future. Emma grew up knowing she was wanted and loved, but also understanding the importance of helping others. At 5 years old, she would insist on donating her toys to the Foundation's children's program. "Mama," she said one day, "why was your stepmother so mean to you?" Arya thought carefully about her answer. Sometimes people are hurt inside and they hurt others because of their pain. But that doesn't make it right, and it doesn't mean we have to let their pain become our pain. "Did you ever see her again?" "No, sweetheart. But I hope she found peace somewhere." And Arya meant it. The anger and hurt had long since faded, replaced by gratitude for the journey that had led her to her true family. 10 years after that stormy night, Arya was at the Foundation when her assistant told her someone was asking to see her. The woman waiting in the lobby was thin, gray-haired, and wearing clothes that had seen better days. It was Victoria. "Hello, Arya," her former stepmother said quietly. Arya's first instinct was to call security, but something in Victoria's posture, the defeat, the genuine remorse, made her pause. "What do you want, Victoria?" "To apologize." Victoria's voice was barely audible. "And to tell you that you were right. I ruined my own life with my bitterness. I lost everything. The house, the money, even my own children won't speak to me." Arya studied the broken woman before her. "Why now? Why come here?" "Because I've been watching what you've built. This foundation, your family, the lives you've changed. You turned the worst thing I ever did to you into something beautiful." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I wanted to tell you that I'm proud of who you became, despite everything I did to try to break you." For a moment they stood in silence. Then Arya did something that surprised them both. She hugged her former stepmother. "I forgive you," she whispered. "I forgave you years ago." Victoria sobbed in her arms, years of guilt and regret finally finding release. 20 years later, Arya and Ethan sat on their porch, watching their grandchildren play in the yard. Emma had grown up to become a doctor, inspired by her mother's story of helping others. Their son James ran the family foundation, continuing their legacy of compassion. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't found you that night?" Ethan asked, his arm around his wife. Arya smiled, her hair now silver but her green eyes still bright with love. "I think we would have found each other eventually. Some love is just meant to be." Their granddaughter ran up to them, breathless from playing. "Grandma, tell us the story again. About how you and Grandpa met." Arya laughed, pulling the little girl onto her lap. "Well, it all started with a storm." As she began the familiar tale, Ethan watched his wife's face, still amazed by her strength, her capacity for forgiveness, and her endless ability to love. The scared, pregnant girl he'd found in the rain had grown into an incredible woman who'd touched thousands of lives. Their love story had begun with heartbreak and rejection, but it had bloomed into something beautiful, a testament to the power of second chances, the importance of trust, and the way love can transform even the darkest circumstances into light. And in the end, that's what mattered most, not how their story began, but how they chose to write it together, one day at a time, with kindness, understanding, and a love that grew stronger with each passing year.